Chris Brown, Steve Tasker, and Bills Hall of Famer Thurman Thomas joining us here on a Tuesday. Good to have you, Thurman. How
What
you doing?
is up, man? How you guys doing? I can tell you what. Everybody's still talking about Thursday. I know
yeah,
we're
a little
getting
bit,
into it,
right?
but I'm going to tell you, I ain't never seen so much Bill stuff in my life.
Yeah.
I was telling him I went to lunch the other day. Every single person had a Bills gear on. Everything.
I was in Syracuse yesterday. Bills gear all over the place. I mean, it is.
And that's usually the dividing line
Yes.
between Bills territory and Giants territory.
territory, yeah.
Usually the line of demarcation goes right down the middle of that city sometimes, but it wouldn't shock me if it's flipped a little bit in favor of the Bills, for sure. So, yeah, why don't we start there? Thursday night football.
Right.
What I want to know, what were the thoughts like as the game was about to begin, and then after it got started, did your thoughts about what you were seeing change at all? Like, did anything exceed your expectations going in? Because the hype was real for this team, as you know.
Yeah, the hype was very real
Yeah.
for this football team, and
Now they had to live up to it.
they had to live up to it. But I think once Vaughn did his thing, it was over. I think it was over. I know, a couple of turnovers there in the first half, 10-10 at halftime,
Yeah.
but I still think at that point, game was over. I just think that we looked like the better football team. Obviously, we were. And 31-10 probably should have been 45-10.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Well,
At
yeah,
least-
if you don't
at
have all
least-
those turnovers.
At least
Yeah.
41. You know, but you think of 31, you get a field goal out of one of those, and they were down close, and they turned it over twice, down three times. Certainly, it was. I was talking to one of the coaches today, and said it was almost perfect because it gave the turnovers were kind of individual mistakes.
Right. Yeah.
So you got enough there to be happy about and think, okay, we're on the right track. But then you got enough as a coach to say, listen, you clean that up. You know, we got stuff we got to work on.
Yeah, stuff you got to work on. And I actually talked to James Cook. And you know what? Hey, don't worry about the next game. Worry about the next practice. Worry about the next practice, to settle those things and get it corrected. I mean, and then somebody, people come up with all these thoughts or whatever, and like they list off like 10 running backs who fumbled on their first carry in the National Football League, right? And it's a pretty impressive list. It was Christian McCaffrey, Steven Jackson. I mean, it was a couple of guys that are on there that, they got some yardage on them. But
Aiden Tomlinson was on that list.
Yep, he did. He was on that list. So,
Marshall Falk was on that list. Oh, my gosh.
Very impressive by what they done. You look at this defense, it was ranked, 1 last year? I mean, you don't see them slowing down at all.
Might be better.
It might be better. And I tell you what, if last couple of years this team has stayed very healthy, and if that front 8 or 9 or whatever they want to put up there can stay healthy, it's going to be a lot of pressure for a lot of teams, whether they're playing at home or whether they're playing on the road.
We'll have to see Ed Oliver and what his injury brings this week, because he left with the ankle injury, did not return to the game. We'll probably get an update at some point tomorrow from Coach McDermott as to whether he's day-to-day or whether it could be something longer than that. That all being said, you look at the game this week and what they're going to need from their defensive front changes dramatically.
Yeah.
Getting 22 hits or sacks on 41 dropbacks by Matthew Stafford last week was fantastic. It probably exceeded expectations.
Yeah.
But what they're going to need from those guys up front this week changes completely with Derrick Henry coming, right? So that's the next test.
You're not.
That's the next test.
Yeah, 41 dropbacks does not happen against Tennessee.
It could.
Oh, you think so?
It could.
All right.
If they stop that run at the beginning of the game. I totally believe that. I think Vrabel, if he sees the game gets out of hand, and if our offense can score, 21, 24 points in the first half, then you're obviously going to throw the ball. But I'm telling you, though,
I mean,
I think this football team this defense is set for pass rush and run defense.
Yeah.
And I think
Tim Settle and Daquan.
And I think the guy who makes the difference, and I missed the past couple of years, has been Jordan Phillips. Love Jordan Phillips. You know what I'm saying? Great. I mean, he's been great. And for him to go to Arizona for a couple of years, come back here to Buffalo, in the first game, boom.
Yeah.
He started off where he left off.
Well,
and this is incredible.
He has said that he likes playing here because he feels he can be the best version of himself as a player when he's here in Buffalo. Down there, He had to go. I mean,
Yeah.
they gave him a bag.
Yeah.
He had to go. But they play a 3-4 down there when he was down there.
Right.
And he doesn't feel he fits the 3-4 system very well. And he had to just stand in there and grind instead of being a penetrating player.
Yeah.
I mean, they had him lining up at end for a few
I know,
snaps
I'm telling
last
you.
week. And he got home.
He got home,
I mean,
yeah.
he is a 340-pound beast that's got more athleticism than I think anybody anticipates on the other side of the offensive line.
You see that this highlight we saw just before the play that we're watching here in studio, I brought this up yesterday. Vaughn comes off the right side of the offensive line for one. He comes off, over the right tackle in a 4-man down front once later in the game, and the right guard slides out to help the right tackle.
Right.
All 3 of the other defensive linemen end up on top of Stafford in the pocket. They're all, it's a pile of humanity. So Vaughn gets doubled, and all 3 of the other guys are on top of the stack.
Right.
It's exactly what you envision. This one right here. It's exactly what you envision.
Good God.
I mean, Stafford, it's like a joke. It's like a joke, And
Stafford looked like a cow patty on the, out in the field after that.
it was unbelievable. Vaughn comes out, and they all get home. They all get home.
Yeah,
Daquan Jones, Jordan Phillips, and I can't remember who the other guy was on the outside, maybe
I think it was-
Ebenezer or somebody. But man, oh man, that's exactly the way you envision when you got an elite pass rusher when you move them around.
Yeah, and you look at this defense. I mean, what year is this for Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott? together?
Six. This
Five.
is
Or six,
Six.
5.
And it
17,
seems
18,
like
19,
every
20, 6.
It seems like every single year they've gotten better at the defensive.
Well,
the
yeah.
defensive presence.
And they
Every
develop
single
guys,
better.
too, though.
Yeah.
Taron Johnson came here as a 4th-round pick. He's one of
Right.
the top 5 nickels in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, look
Yeah.
what they've done
They-
with Benford and Elam alone in the last month and a half.
I totally agree
Levi
with you.
Wallace is a great example of that.
Yeah.
There's a ton of guys you can point to that have been, Matt Milano.
Right.
Seeing him early on, saying, that guy can play. And he plugged in really quick in his
Yeah.
rookie season
Yeah.
and has been there ever since.
Yeah.
It's been fun to watch. And it's for me, though, let's talk, too, about this. The secondary has been kind of the linchpin of the defense for, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I think ever since
Poyer and
Hyde got here, right?
And for good reason. With Tre'Davious was one of their first draft pick, right? So he
Yeah.
comes in, so they got those 3 guys, and they're rolling with coverage. Hard for the quarterback to find openings, right?
Right.
Well, yeah. Now they got a little bit more up front as well.
Oh,
and
man.
now they're playing a little bit hamstrung without Tre'Davious, but the
Right.
two young kids, both of them had pass defense.
I'm telling you, them guys they look like they've been in this defense for a couple of years. Even from training camp to preseason into the first game. I mean, Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott done a great job of really coaching these guys, and obviously having Poyer back there and Micah Hyde, two of the probably the best 2 safeties in the league, in my opinion, in the last couple of years. Having those guys back there to cover a lot of ground and in the zone and the man-to-man that they mix up, man, and throughout the entire game has definitely helped them. But that pass rush, man, they're going to be able to do a lot of different things back there. I mean, with that pass rush, you might be able to see a little bit more man-to-man now.
Right.
Well, you're dropping 7. I mean, they didn't blitz once.
Didn't blitz once.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. So to
you
have
can drop 7 every time.
and that quarterback is like, okay, well, where do I go now? Obviously, you see in the first game, Robinson had 1 catch.
Yeah.
They were
2
talking about
targets,
him
1
being
catch.
the deciding factor with Cooper Kupp.
He was scared. When coming into that game, you thought, man, I don't know what we're going to do with him because you got to have some guys on Cooper Kupp. What are we going to do without him, Robinson?
Right.
Because that guy can, and he got 2 targets for 12
targets.
yards, 1
Yeah.
catch and 12
Yeah.
yards.
And the thing that I
That's
really
shocking.
liked about this football team, and I text Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde after the football game, and I said, oh, congratulations on the win. Micah Hyde, within 10 seconds, just repeated, he just said, it's just one. It's just one.
Yeah.
Boy, you know what? That right there, I told somebody the other day, it might have been on the group chat we had, this locker room might be the coolest place to be in the United States right now.
Right.
That locker room is so great and so confident right now.
And that was going to be the next thing that I asked you, because I know you interact with these guys every once in a while, and
Yeah.
you text with some of them. It seems the growth and the maturation of this team is evident on the field we know the culture that Coach McDermott's been able to establish here.
Right.
You mentioned, how Micah responded after getting congratulated on the win. That's like a universal thing across the board. And I feel like, and you guys can speak to this, having had, playoff runs that didn't end the way you wanted to, 88, 89, not getting to the big game. I got to feel like those playoff losses just build up this kind of scar tissue where you get to the point where you're just like, screw it all. We are on a mission.
Right.
And I feel like that is what this team is embodying right now.
Mm-hmm.
There is going to be no down game days, no games where they're not just laying it all out there.
Yeah.
Because I think they learned from last year, Jacksonville game, a couple of the others that they should have won.
Right.
It cost them home field throughout the playoffs. I don't know. It's just a gut feeling that I have. They just feel a little bit more laser focused on the ultimate prize and know that focus has to be there every single week. Do you feel that or sense that from them?
I feel it. I sense it. I believe it. I believe that's what they're looking at. Their confidence is sky high that they can do just about anything on that football field. I really do believe that. And not only do they believe it, I'm talking around with these fans. They're confident now, and we know from the back in the 90s, we know we're going to win. Mm-hmm. The fans feel that way right now.
Right.
The fans feel that way. And I know the players do too. Because, look,
Players always feel that way.
they always feel like they win every single game. But when you bring on a Von Miller here who says, I want to win a championship for Buffalo. After winning one with Denver and winning one last year with the Rams, he brings that type of leadership in there. Man, that thing is you're going on all cylinders right there. It changes that entire freaking locker room.
Now, there are guys in there, like, you don't have to do that for Joshua, but there are guys down the road, like guys like I used to be, guys covering like Tywan Jones. There are guys like, Matakevich and the guys, the offensive linemen down there, the guys backing up the offensive line, all down through the roster. There are guys who look at that and see that and go, and they just raise their level, So
well, he was talking about it last week when he said when Cornelius came here in '87. That's before you got here, but he said Cornelius came. He said we saw it in the first practice. Like, oh damn, we're gonna we're gonna be really good.
That guy, he can go. Right. So you get that thing where you get, and it's like when we were good, and it was after we'd kind of proven ourselves, but it was the same thing.
Right.
You and Jim and Bruce and Andre. And certainly Cornelius and Darryl, the best guys, the hardest working ones, right? So guys like, I'm like, what am I going to do? Take a day off? I'm over here like I'm taking scout team reps. Am I going to
step it up here?
Yeah, I'm going to go half speed, right? So
it doesn't matter that it's week 15.
When you got a guy like Von Miller, that's what he does. He comes in and he's going, and you can see he's engaged in every rep.
Yeah.
And he's talking to guys. And he's not talking about, the dinner he had last night and then whatever. It's about, listen, when the guy takes a step like this, you put your hand here and it's all the time.
Yeah.
And it raises the level of the entire roster. That's what great players do.
Look at what AJ, Boogie, and Rousseau did in that game on Thursday night. Rousseau has a sack and a couple of quarterback hits and was a monster crashing down against the run game.
Yeah.
And then Boogie has a sack. He has a pick that he tips to himself. Yep. AJ's got 1.5 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. Like
that, I would go, and
that's not just Von.
No.
But Von plays a part in that.
I'll say this.
Absolutely.
You go back, and it didn't happen while Von wasn't here, that all of those guys had all that stuff going on in one game.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They might have done it here, and it might have done
like
it there.
An avalanche.
One of them here, one of them there, all of them did it in the same game, and with no extra pressure coming. No linebackers blitzing, no secondary guys blitzing. It was just the 4 of them, whoever it was, and they got that done in one game. When you have a guy come in who's got some credibility in the league like Vaughn,
right,
and you get guys like Jordan Phillips, who all of a sudden was in Miami, didn't go well in Miami, came to Buffalo, still a young player. Mm-hmm. Then he goes out,
gets his money,
and also sees how it is.
Yeah,
in other places.
Yeah.
And comes back here and says, "Wait, bro, let's go. This is, it really makes a difference for the attitude of the locker room." And because I tell people all the time, I've said it on the show a bunch. You win games Monday through Saturday, and the game it's like a punch. It's like punching your ticket.
Yeah, but Coach McDermott, and I don't know if Marv did this, but I just feel like Coach purposely makes practice harder than the damn game. So when they get to the game, the game's easy. Like you. And we could talk about this a little bit, too, because I'd be curious
harder,
to get...
Harder one way. You're saying harder mentally, maybe.
Well, he's throwing adversity at him all the time.
He's always
the coordinators, the players, he doesn't care. Like, he's going to make it as hard as possible for you during the practice week. So when you're sitting there 3rd and 12, you're like, all right, we got this. Like, we're just going to run this.
Guys
that's what it was like in the game Thursday.
Guys have to concentrate.
And I hate to bring it up, but, that's what Belichick does. He puts them in certain situations where you'd be like, oh, we got to think right away.
Yeah.
We got to think right away. And Sean McDermott is doing. Hey, look, after what happened last year with the 13 seconds,
he's got it turned up even more.
He's got it turned up even more now. Yeah. So, because, I guarantee you, man, this is going to be a year where there's not going to be a lot of screw-ups out there. I can tell you that right now.
I've got to say, that might have been the thing I was most impressed with in the whole game, front to back, was the execution. Mm-hmm. Very few penalties. Now, granted, they had the Cheffers crew, and they don't throw a lot of flags to begin with, but very few penalties, very few unforced errors. There weren't a lot of instances where they didn't make plays because the execution was poor. Sometimes, the Rams just get the best of you, or your opponent gets the best of you, you don't make the play. Yes, there were a couple bad decisions with the turnovers, but on the whole, it seemed pretty tight, like for week 1, too. You know what I mean? Which brings me to my next thing, Thurman, that I wanted to bounce off of you. Steve and I were talking about this. The Packers, the Cardinals, the 49ers, and there was one other team that I can't remember now, did not play any of their guys.
Rams.
And the Rams did not play any of their guys in the preseason.
Right.
Just about every single one of them laid an egg.
Ooh, yeah.
And did not perform. Now, I'm not saying play your starters front to back in the preseason, but you got to play them a little bit. These guys all look flat in week 1.
Man, this conversation has been talked about a lot, especially in the last couple of days, because do Bruce call you a lot?
No.
He calls me at least. I'm going to show you my phone.
He might, but I don't pick up.
Yeah.
I'm teasing. He doesn't call me.
Well,
That's your mistake, Thurman. You keep picking up.
He called me a couple of days yesterday and was like, have you seen all the injuries across the board?
Soft tissue
in
stuff.
In the National Football League. And he goes back to always saying, that's why we practice all the time in pads. We did hit a lot. We had 2-a-days for a couple of weeks.
Bruce didn't get a whole lot of training camp practices in pads, if I remember right there.
Yeah, but you know what? When you're going against Will Wolford, you're going to get a lot of work.
You'll be ready.
And
they were going to be ready.
And they weren't. We didn't have any restrictions on contact at practice.
Right.
True.
Back-to-back days.
We were hitting
twice a day.
Yeah.
We were in pads twice a day for like a week and a half or 2 weeks leading into the first preseason game.
Right.
And it was 2-a-days for 7 solid straight days before you get a day off. And you're hitting one practice at least a day. They're like going 9 on 7. They don't even do 9 on 7 these days. And 9 on 7 was like just take the corners and receivers off the field and go.
Yeah. But to your point, though, there is something to be said about that.
Yeah.
The players got to play, man. Your body has to get ready for that contact for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And I just think like some of those teams that are not playing, and you named them all right there.
Yeah, Russell Wilson didn't play in the preseason.
They're going to struggle.
He was a little rusty.
They're going to struggle, man. You got to be out there and be on the timing with your receivers and all that stuff. You just have to do it. You just can't just go to it.
Here's the thing.
And Steve was talking about the injuries happen because even if you're practicing in training camp or here at the facility with your teammates and all of that stuff, and you don't play in a preseason game to take that next step up in intensity, you go from practice to a game where it's 110 miles an hour every play, and something's going to go. And that, that's why we saw, Chris Godwin, who probably came back from ACL surgery too early, he yanks a hamstring because he's,
I don't know. It's always a balance.
It's a balance.
You can practice as hard as you possibly want, and you can hit every day in practice as long as nobody gets hurt.
Right, as long as nobody gets hurt.
Somebody's got to get hurt.
Yeah.
Who's it going to be? That's really the role of the dice.
And you know what? You think about really from the Bills' time for the last 3 or 4 years. The training, strength and conditioning coach, they have been outstanding for these guys. Yeah, I mean, if you really look at it, Tre'Davious White been really the only significant injury that they've suffered. I mean, he suffered an ACL, right?
Non-contact,
too. But these guys, man, they've been able to stay healthy.
Butker got an Achilles, but it's week 16, week 17. I mean, we made it through the whole season. You never know, what's going on with that. But it's, I think, too, it's not so much, sometimes it's not so much about the physicality. It is about the physicality of practicing hard and hitting and playing in the preseason against somebody else who's not interested in your health. Like your teammates kind of, there's none of that going on. But it's also just about getting your mind around now I got to have my guard up when the ball is snapped.
Right.
I mean, I got to watch it. You got to have your
head
you got to have your antenna up. You got to feel and see everything that's going on around you. Yeah. In training camp and practice, you're thinking, okay, I've got this assignment. I'm going to go over here. If he does this, I do that. If I do this, he does that. And you're thinking about installing this stuff. But in a game, you don't think about that stuff. You're going, I got to make this play. Let's go. And you got to have like an awareness.
Yeah.
And I think that's as big a part. It's the mindset you have when it's live and it's for real that is just different than it is in practice or scrimmage or a controlled scrimmage or anything like that.
Thurman, we wanted to, just to shift gears a little bit, get your thoughts on the latest happenings with the Browns organization. Steve was going to congratulate me.
Very much so.
Because they've decided, shockingly through a fan vote, that their logo at midfield going forward in Cleveland will be none other than Brownie the Elf. And I know, feel free to criticize the fact that Brownie has not got the proper 5 points of pressure on the football there as he's carrying it.
That is the worst.
Got a loaf of bread going there.
Not even a loaf of bread.
So the center field logo is a fumble in so many different ways.
He's holding that thing like it's a Bible or
Are
something.
we supposed to be intimidated by this? I mean,
he's got his angry
I'm going to
face.
sit up here and say that the Cleveland Browns will be the last team in the National Football League to win a Super Bowl.
Put it on the whiteboard.
I'm going to put that on the whiteboard. It's going to be a while before all of them
the fans voted for this.
They only
I realize he has been incorporated into a lot of their marks over the last, I want to say, 6 to 8 years. He has shown up more and more, but I mean,
really, where this is the first time I've ever seen him
in some of their marks and logos and things. Like when I would get the weekly release when the Bills were playing the Browns, I'd see him up in the top corner. I'm like, what's going on?
It was all for the center of the field. This is the one they chose right here,
right?
The one that we saw. Then this one was the other one where he's standing there with his hand on his hip, looking at you like he's,
Yeah.
Then
looks like Peter
Then it's the two
Pan.
helmets.
Just put the helmet out there.
This 3D helmet or the silhouette helmet.
Yeah.
And that was their 4 choices, and they chose this guy with the angry face and the stiff arm, like the Heisman Trophy kind of pose.
And there is the actual mascot running around the thing.
They're
all
going to have
pumped up.
The Browns are going to have a mascot.
Well, he's been there for the last few years.
Has he?
Yes, he has.
So it was a slow release, huh?
Oh,
yeah, slow burn, if you will.
Wow.
I don't know what to say. It's
there's
hard
really-
to be intimidated by that going in.
Brownie the elf.
The
Is
guy,
what it is, right?
they got a guy
Brownie
that
the
makes
elf.
cookies at the center of the
Brownie-
field now. It's like it's like the
The elf.
like the guy that
They
makes
should've
the
just
cookies.
Put, Nick Chubb out there.
Somebody. Listen. Listen.
Brown.
Jim Brown out there,
Yeah.
right?
We
Put
are-
Jim
Guy's
Brown.
got the same last name, for God's sake.
Nobody thought of that.
No.
Oh, my.
Listen.
Now, Jim maybe charged too much for his
And of
likeness.
course,
Who knows?
the internet, which remains undefeated,
So I'm gonna look at this.
they're all about
after I
it.
leave
They
here.
said, "Well, how come they got Kyler Murray as their middle field logo?" You know that.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
my
And it's like all this stuff.
Wow.
And it's like Keebler
Keebler
Elf.
Elf,
right.
Keebler
Yeah.
Elf is their
Unbelievable.
Oh,
That's-
man. The Keebler Browns.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Does that mean
gosh.
everybody gets free Fred Stripe cookies after the game, or like what do we?
Only when they win, I guess. Or do
Unbelievable.
they get
Steve-
the brownie after a loss to make them feel better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or as Steve said earlier, just when you thought the Browns were ready to get it right and move on, they redeem themselves.
They redeemed themselves.
Disappoint you all over again.
All over again.
Oh, my
wow.
God.
That is just-
Unbelievable.
I can't think of something. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to rack my brain.
You can't.
For a logo
Well-
that I thought less of,
You can't.
and I'm sure there are some that made you kind of look at him a little.
Why an elf?
crossing.
Why would it be an? I know there's a history to
There's
this,
probably
and I'm going to read about it after the show because I'm not really that interested.
Wow,
An elf.
That's not
Why?
good.
How did they get to the elf?
Okay.
I gotta. You know.
Apparently, it's been around for a while.
Right. It's been around for a bit. And I guess Cleveland fans would know this. And our buddy out in the control room, Tom Hollander, grew up out in
Cleveland.
Yeah. So he'll
Or the
know.
Cleveland area, yeah.
Hey, my buddy that I text, he hasn't texted me back yet.
He's probably still shaking his head.
He's like, what?
Or he's devolved into a deep depression.
He's like, Thurman, that's a fake tweet.
It's bad
It's not
enough the
real.
Deshaun
It's
Watson
not
thing
real.
went sideways. Like, that wasn't to be foreseen.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We'll try to get the 411 on why, it came to this.
It's been Brown of the Elf. It says now it's been around since 1946.
What? Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think we'll just say that.
For us, I mean,
While you dive into that, we will take a break. Thurm, if you want to hang around, you're welcome to. Otherwise, you have fulfilled your duties. But I think we would like to know if you're going to be at the game, right? You meant Monday night?
Yeah, I'll be there. Come on now.
Now this has become a thing,
Right?
because I know you have upwards of a dozen Bills jerseys
Oh,
of
yeah.
current players, is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Have you made the decision
Oh,
yet?
yeah, it's
Which number?
already
Oh,
been
you're
made. It's
okay. Well, I'm
already
not, don't
been
let it
made.
out of the bag.
You're not
we
gonna
want
tell
the
anybody
big
what
reveal on
No,
Monday.
I'm not going to tell anybody. No.
He puts
Is
that
that
out
how it
on.
goes?
Yeah.
He tweets it out or
Oh,
Instagrams it
yeah,
out, and
yeah.
All right.
so all right.
And
you already got
the
your pick.
big thing is, it's a jersey I never worn.
Ooh.
Really? Yeah.
Okay.
So that kind of narrows it down a
Yeah,
little
it
bit
does.
there.
Well,
it does.
it could.
It could.
It's still-
But yeah.
All right.
Never worn this jersey before.
Ooh, that was a great tease, Thurm. Nice job.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm trying
Good
to
to
come
have
up
you
with
here as
something.
always.
I'm coming up with some obscure guy. I mean, one of our old teammates or something. Who's it going to be? Mm-hmm. All right.
Well, I mean, he might give you a hint. Is it a current or a former player?
It's a current.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
current. All
yeah.
right.
Is
so
it
there's
always current?
That's all you got.
Almost
Usually it is.
Oh, yeah.
Usually
yeah,
it is.
I would never wear your jersey.
I know that.
I'm just
I know
saying.
that.
I mean, that's something that I treasure a lot.
Yeah, right.
No,
No, it's fine. I get it. You don't-
With
it's too late.
12 and
It's too
78.
late.
And you never see me wear Jims
It's
or
too late.
Andres. I
Yeah.
don't wear any. Yeah.
Last
It's
thing
in
for
the
you,
closet.
Thurman.
Yeah,
Last
sure.
thing
Yeah,
for you,
it's in the
because-
closet. It's in a closet on the floor.
Last thing for you, because we are anticipating that the roof's gonna. If there was a roof on this thing, it would have been blown off come Monday night.
Yes.
What do you think makes this home opener particularly special? Why is it going to be nutso on Monday?
Well, one, because we're favored to win the Super Bowl. And it looks like we have the best team in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for Bills fans to really show their presence, because they did a great job of that on the last couple of years on the road, and now for a Monday night game
At home, yeah.
at home, the home opener. I don't know when the last time they had a home opener that was a
Yeah, I don't
Monday
think
night
it's ever-
game.
And think about this too. It's the first time the fans in person get to show a little love for these guys that have gotten them to this point.
Absolutely.
It's a new
And,
group. It's a new group.
It's
Vaughn-
it'd
it's
be
Vaughn and
very
all those
interesting
guys,
to
yeah.
see. Is Sean McDermott is probably going to introduce the offense?
Maybe the defense.
Maybe he does.
Maybe
the
Vaughn
defense.
comes
But
out the
either
last,
one,
I don't know.
It's going to be a loud roar for Vaughn or
Yeah.
Josh.
Right.
One of the two.
So now, and think about that. You got superstar on both sides of the deal. That's pretty good.
That's pretty cool right
Yeah.
there.
Thurb, thanks for stopping by.
All
I'm
right,
sure we'll catch
appreciate
up
it.
with you
Great seeing you, man.
in the coming weeks, especially to get your thoughts on how this Monday night went. I'm confident it'll go
yeah.
well.
I'm confident.
Bills are already 10-point favorites.
10 points.
That's a
favorite.
fat number.
That's
That
a
is
fat
a fat number.
Yeah.
Vegas
You
knows
know,
something.
yeah, I'm gonna love to look at the face of Mike Vrabel. You know, he gets a little.
He gets under your skin.
I don't like him at all.
He was a
I don't like him at all.
All right. Well, there it is. Thurman with the big hammer right at the end there. Way to go.
He's a hard coach to beat.
Yeah.
That's why you don't like him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got his guy. He doesn't miss a beat. You talk about guys, and he got a little pushback from some of the decisions he made in week one. But
Right.
on the whole, that guy, and I've said it before. I say it all the time. game management, timeouts, when to not take a timeout, how to use the clock.
He's good.
He's the best.
He's
the
good.
best guy
He's
out
good.
there.
Yeah.
All right, break time for us. Thurman, thanks. We'll catch up with you soon, and we'll see you here on Monday night.